Hi guys, today I have Alon Yariv with me, who is CEO at Qubex. Alon is one of the emerging leaders in Tel Aviv startup scene, and I'm very excited to have him with me today. Hi Alon, how are you doing?
I'm doing all well. I'm very glad that we managed to make this happen with all the time difference that we have.
Exactly.
Uh,
Just
Doing
for
well.
the
Doing well.
viewers, Alon is based in Tel Aviv, Israel, and I'm based in Sydney, Australia. So huge time zone difference, but we have managed to bridge it. Now, Alon, please tell us about yourself. What do you do? What's your background?
So I always like to say that there are three things I like to do in life. I like to program. I do this since I was around 10. I like to play the violin. I do this from around the age of 5 till playing in Helsinki in the Helsinki Chamber Orchestra. And I really like mathematics. I did my master's in mathematics, started studying it as a high school kid. I come, at least professionally, from a technological background. My previous position was as CTO in a company called Data. Before that, I was leading a team in a company called Finology. And yeah, like many years in the Israeli high-tech ecosystem.
Awesome. So, you are CEO and you have founded this company, Qubex. What was the inspiration? What's the story behind this company?
So I was always fascinated with efficiency. It even goes to when I go around the house, like when I need to pick up a glass of water and I need to do some other task, I will calculate the optimal path to do it to walk the least amount of steps.
Yeah,
And this is just the way I am. And in my previous company, one of the things that we were suffering from is users are very dynamic in their behavior, especially when it's a large group of users that uses a system not seasonally. And what was bothering me was the lack of ability to actually first understand where my system is susceptible to those uh, demand variations, and also not just the susceptibility part of thing, but I also wanted a solution. I wanted a tool that enables me to say, okay, this part of my system now scales 10 times faster to
mhm,
meet the user's demands. And then we realized that it is a much bigger story. So we realized that companies like Ticketmaster, they suffer from this problem in an extreme case whenever there is like, now what happened was a Beyonce concert tour in Northern Europe, or the same goes with Coinbase whenever there's a jump in the Bitcoin price. And the same goes with Uber and whenever there's like a rain shower, sudden rain shower next to the Sydney Opera House.
yeah,
Or I don't know if it will happen. I'm
it
assuming it
is.
will.
Yes,
So yeah, everybody
happens more
rushes into
often than
the
not.
application.
Yeah,
Exactly. So what happens is that everybody rushes into the application. It can vary orders of magnitude in size. So it can be 100,000 Beyonce fans or 1 million. You need almost 10 times the infrastructure to deal with it. And you just will have the infrastructure in advance, or if you don't, the system will collapse as it always does with ticketing platforms.
got
So our goal was to provide a one-stop shop. It's a difficult thing for an Israeli to say. One-stop shop solution for cloud scale up.
it. Yeah. And why is it difficult for an Israeli to say
Oh
that? You have to
wow,
tell
why
us.
is it difficult? Uh, well, first, it is very difficult to understand where things are getting stuck. So sometimes it is easy. Sometimes it's just the CPU, RAM utilization, maybe IO. You see one of them peaking at 100%, and easy peasy. You know, I need to increase the pod size. But more often than not, it's a much more delicate question of some interaction between a pod and a database, that if this pod scales up significantly, it will overwork the database and this will get like
Yeah,
a different pod stack. So first of all, like just understanding, and this was something that we learned along the way, just understanding where are things getting stuck. and like also the why behind it and how to solve it is a huge task.
Yeah.
The second part is okay, now we know where things are getting stuck. How do we make it move faster? And this is difficult because it varies from each point of your cloud. So it starts like, the most weird problem I saw was deployments getting stuck because they run out of IPs for pods.
Okay.
It's like a very easy thing to fix. Just extend the network,
Yeah.
or you do some floating IPs like to preoccupy them. But one thing completely like a product. It's a product. The second thing is like, okay, now we reach the general purpose compute. So EKS and EC2s are completely different. And EKS and AKS, the ideas behind solving scaling times there are similar, but they are still substantially different than one
Yeah.
another.
There are nuances.
And
Yes.
then I don't even want to start talking about the databases.
Sure.
So solving things in the database level is like what we understand will be a huge project in its own right. Essentially, well, we are starting to solve. We started looking at RDS, started now solving things for
Sure.
Elasticsearch, but in general, like solving scaling issues as a whole is a
Yeah.
well, I forgot how to say this well, but megalomaniacal project in a way.
Okay, I got it. I think I would also not try to pronounce it, but I got the idea. So,
I
but
took
you
up the
already,
challenge.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, you already answered my next question. So, but I will still ask that. What exactly does success mean to you and your company, Qubex, in the long run?
Okay, so I always like to think of a conversation that comes up before the concert season, somewhere around the summer, between the VP R&D of Ticketmaster to the CEO. The CEO, CEOs, myself included, we are people with a very limited amount of time.
Yeah.
So we come to the VP R&D, we ask him, are we ready for 1 million users? The VP R&D will say, like I don't really know. Like we tested it with Chaos Monkey, like some malfunctions we did some stress tests, but you're never going to really check. Like it would just cost you a huge amount of money to do an actual system check, full scale, full bandwidth with you know, all the many different details that every user brings with himself. So currently, like CEO asking VP R&D, are we ready for traffic burst, for a malfunction of a zone, for like a spot interrupt, whatever it is? There is no good way for the VP R&D both to know and also to move it forward and to tell the CEO, yes, we are ready for 1 million. And if you want more, those are the three bottlenecks that we suffer from, and I need more budget to fix it. So like giving the VP R&D and the CEO ways to actually gauge the capacity of the system, the weaknesses of the system, and also to save a huge amount of time solving those, this is our goal. This is
Got
our
it.
success.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense totally. So, look, what would be your top three tips you would give to other startups who are just starting out or thinking of starting up?
Yeah, so I think when you start a startup, it is rarely the case that the idea that you start with is the idea that you will end up actually building a unicorn on. And the thing that really matters is when you have a difficult decision and when you need to actually go through a thought process, what matters are the people around you. So this should start with a co-founder and with a VC that is investing in you. Those people are super influential to the initial, like, it's almost like the first few people that you get in will dictate every person that comes later to the organization. Like they dictate the DNA of the company, they dictate who you hire, and just bring people. Actually, I have a funny story that I like very much. When we first founded Qubex, we sat like in a friend's office. He just rented an office. He had an empty room. There were 3 tables, and one of the tables was not assembled. And we were just Isaac, me, and our first employee, Gil. One of the tables was like one of those complicated tables that goes up and down, the hydraulic thing. We came there the first day just like to see the room, and they told us, okay, we will build the table like the day next. We came there, the table was not built, and I was just, look, we need the table to work. Just give me like the tools that you have. I will build it. So my first official task working from an office in Qubex was to build a table. But I built it. And, I think it sounds a little bit like I'm happy about how I handle the situation, but I think you really are looking for those kind of people that will see just something that needs to be done and
And
will
they'll
do
do
it.
it. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the table makers. It's like really, it doesn't matter if you hire a CTO, if you hire a CPO, like salesperson, whatever. The job needs to be done.
They'll do it.
They see it first, they'll do it, or they
Right.
will do everything they can.
That's awesome. On the same note, you mentioned that you just rented a room from your own friend, or so that just brings me to this question that we have heard a lot about this Israeli startup scene and how the innovation is happening there. Some really great names have come out of Israel, like Monday.com and various other. The list goes on, and every day there are new startups doing great work. So why do you think this is the case? That what's the
Hmm.
secret sauce behind all of this innovation happening in Israel?
So I think there are 3 parts to this secret sauce. The first thing, the Israeli high-tech community is unbelievably concentrated geographically. So, okay, Mobileye are in Jerusalem, Playtika in Herzliya. So some companies are outliers, but the vast majority, 95% of the Israeli companies that you hear of are located in a 1 square kilometer box, like in the middle of Tel Aviv. Like Checkpoint, Monday, WalkMe, JFrog, like basically like really any Orca Security, Wix. Wix used to be. They now moved a little bit like to the north of Tel Aviv, so it's like 2.5 kilometers away. Wiz, so super concentrated geographically, which
Right.
means I can go today if I decide and knock on the door of the CEO of Lemonade, the CEO of Monday, CEO of JFrog the same day if I decide. So it makes it very reachable.
And they are
The second,
accessible. Would they answer? Are they helpful?
so yeah, this is the second part. Like people in Israel are generally very helpful towards startups. So because of the huge amount of entrepreneurs, ex-entrepreneurs, like repetitive or with repetitive entrepreneurs or whatever how you call it. So everybody wants to help,
Right.
and but I think this is probably entrepreneurs in general in the
Yeah.
world want to help. But so I'll give you like a fun story just as an example. I few months ago, maybe almost a year ago now, I met with a guy called Aviv Kerbel for the first time. And this guy, he used to work like in a VC, then he worked like in a startup company. But I meet this guy for a cup of coffee, and while not 40 minutes have passed since I met the guy, he already started like opening his WhatsApp and doing like connections in like WhatsApp groups with VCs, with Monday.com, with the WalkMe, like basically anyone he can connect. So people are very open both to like to introduce people. I just made like last day I made two introductions to VCs, like for friends, one introduction to a potential customer, and like I also got myself a few. I actually got myself 15 introductions to new potential customers yesterday.
Wow.
This guy was like a superstar. But so people are very willing to help, and I think people are not. So the third part is that people are very, very honest in Israel. They just don't don't have the time like to. They don't care for bullshit. Like you cannot get fluff passed by them.
Right.
I had this experience. Like I sent a blurb, a new blurb of the company to some high-ranking COO in one of the largest companies, but he happens to be Israeli. And I sent him the blurb, and his reaction was, "This is just buzzwords." Like, and he was like, "I don't understand anything. Like, what do you want from me? This means nothing." And you would think, okay, he's maybe a weirdo, but no, I send it. I send this scenario happens quite often. You send people and you get a candid
Yeah.
valuation of what you did. And this lets you like iterate and improve very fast.
Nice. Okay.
And so the combination of geographical, very concentrated, people very willing to open doors, and people are telling you the
Yeah.
bare
Straightforward.
truth,
Yeah.
very straightforward. It makes you iterate fast, bring
Yeah.
customers fast, and move
Nice.
fast. So
Got it.
yeah.
Great. Yeah. That makes sense. And well, I know that you're a huge music aficionado, so please tell us about your music passion. How did
Yeah.
it
So
start? Yeah, and everything.
how did it start? Okay, so wow. It's a long time ago. So it was when I was around 5. We went to a wedding and there was a violinist. Um, and I was just amazed by the sound, by the looks of it, by I don't know what is it that charmed the 5-year-old me, but I begged my parents for half a year to play the violin. Eventually, they reluctantly agreed because a child playing the violin in the house is quite an annoying thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've experienced like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, all the way until 14-year-old child playing the violin. Not a pleasant experience. Um, Accepted. I started playing and I play ever since. My interest peaked somewhere around the age of 14. I had to take this sort of decision. I was studying in the university at that time, mathematics and physics, and I realized I will always be able to use my analytical brain. Well, maybe not always, but at least like for quite a substantial amount of years. And being a concert violinist is never going to be an option again. So I decided to move to a school specialized for the arts, and um, yeah, so there my love for the instrument and my competitive nature came together to make me play an unimaginable amount of time. Like each day, I used to play 8 hours a day,
Wow.
like from the moment school finished at 2 till 10:30 when they needed to lock the door for the conservatory. Um, and yeah, so I actually started a little bit as an underdog with the violin. So when I came first to this school, Tel Violin, I was not one of the best. But exactly, this is like one of the things. In Tel Violin, they will tell you exactly how good you are. Like they will put you in an orchestra in a linear order from the best to the worst.
Hmm.
So you can measure your progress. If you play better, if you perform better, you will move forward.
Yeah,
So
you'll
I moved
progress.
forward. Yeah, so I moved all the way to the front eventually. Like I won some competitions then, and then I played in Helsinki in a chamber orchestra.
That is
It's called
wonderful.
yeah, it was
And
and
how
also
long did
like
you spend in Helsinki?
so in Helsinki the job was for 1 year,
Okay.
And I used to fly there twice a month. Like it's a chamber orchestra, so the capacity of projects is not as like a philharmonic.
Mhm.
So I could get away with living in Israel, doing my master's in mathematics while flying to Helsinki
Mhm.
uh,
Nice.
twice a month. And it was a whole, I actually I very romanticized this time of my life because it was like this very nice balance between doing mathematics in Israel, flying to Helsinki to play the violin.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, that really is fabulous. Maybe in another video, we'll also request you to play some violin for us. We'll arrange a microphone and everything, and we'll do an exclusive video on that one. So for sure, for the viewers, I'm sure that everyone would love it. Now, just to end this up, could you do us a favor and show us some demo of Qubex, please?
Yeah, so I will show you a demo of our Q scaler.
Okay.
So one of the first solutions that we came up with is a tool that enables your Kubernetes cluster scale much faster. Apparently it is a rhyme. I never noticed it before. Your Kubernetes cluster scale much faster.
Yeah, a
I
new
should use it.
tagline.
Yeah. So on the left side is a vanilla Kubernetes cluster supported with the Carpenter. Autoscaler on the right is our cluster with Qscaler installed. Basically, the installation process has happened. It's a command line tool, 2 lines of installation, very easy process for the user. And the idea is we do everything possible in advance. So when you bring up a new machine into your cluster, there are a lot of things that need to happen in order for this machine to join. It needs to boot the operating system. It needs to connect with the kubelet to the rest of the cluster. It needs the user data, the container cache. As you can see, our cluster with the Qscaler already finished the scaling process in 34 seconds. And so you need like container images on the on the node. All of those things take time. So the way we look at it, we examined each of those parts and we saw how can we reduce the time it takes to boot. So reducing the boot, we used something that is supported by the cloud vendors, hibernation. For reducing the amount of time it takes containers to deploy, we built container cache, which is a system that essentially caches container images in those hibernated instances. So you have a machine stored in the form of an EBS, no CPU, no RAM, almost zero payment. That is like a snapshot of a machine, and it is ready to deploy at all times.
Yeah.
As you can see here, we can reduce by around 3-4 times the time it takes to scale.
Yeah.
So with us, it takes 34 seconds, and with the standard way of operating, with not preparing things in advance, but let's see if I can find like just the actual timing of it. For some reason, it is getting covered by the player.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's
That is
around.
fine. Yeah.
So in small clusters, it is between 3 to 4 times faster. And in larger operations, when you need to deploy now 1,000 machines, what happens is that the container registry is going to suffer. The etcd is going to suffer because of allocating like IP
Yeah.
addresses. The quotas of just deploying machines will suffer. The AMI registry of Amazon will start suffering.
Yeah.
So all of those things together, we have a statistic that suggests that deploying 1,000 machines takes usually around 5 to 10 minutes. And one of the use cases that this should be of particular concern if you're basing your infrastructure on spot instances, or you are building some infrastructure that has what's called a traffic move, like a live data center, a backup live data center, and the one serving customer is experiencing issues, you move the traffic to the backup one, but it needs to scale very fast to support the entire traffic. So it usually needs to scale about to 2 times as much because of the existing load balancing. And what is what needs to happen in the background is, okay, you lost 1,000 spot instances. You need to deploy 1,000 new instances.
Yeah.
Deploying 1,000 instances takes a long time. So it can take up to 10 minutes. It needs to pull the container images. It needs to like boot. It is a very slow process. For us, deploying 1,000 machines takes still 30 seconds.
Wow.
So one of the use cases that we see is companies that are using spot instances now can use them and not worry about spot interruptions. Like Amazon can suck an entire system of spots, entire family of spots, like M family. They decided like memory optimized the spots are no longer available. You need to return them in 2 minutes, and it will take you 10 minutes to scale up. So you will lose 8 minutes of service. We saw it already, both in Monday. They have like a case study with us. It took them 10 minutes to gain back like efficiency. Oh, not efficiency, like normal latency.
Yeah.
We see it also. Well, we saw it in quite a few places, this type of scenario, and now we are also working like on the traffic move type of things with larger customers.
Right. Got it. Well, that was very insightful and really, really fun talking with you, Alon. I think I already have taken a lot of your time, but highly appreciate, you coming to this call and share your knowledge, your passion, and especially this Qubex thing. Very excited, and I will share the link to Qubex in video description, and I will also share Alon's LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect with him, feel free. Also, please, I would highly encourage you to visit qubex.com and see if it helps you. Plus,
Qubex.ai.
please, sorry,
Qubex.ai. I just
qubex.ai, sure thing, yeah. And it will be in the video's description, so please do visit it. Again, thank you very much, Alon, and talk to you soon again.
it's always a
Yes.
pleasure.